Right friends, welcome back to Learning Space. This is the second capsule. There are 2-3 news items in recent times with regard to higher education in our country, and we decided to present a capsule on higher education and India. The question here is, do you feel that the expansion of IITs and IIMs nowadays, IITs and IIMs are being expanded to smaller and smaller towns. These are being expanded, and do you feel that the expansion of IITs and IIMs will take India's education to the world class standards? Whether India will reach this world class standards in higher education with the expansion of IITs and IIMs? I listed out 14 points. Before going into the first point, let us look at requirements for production of goods and services. All of you are familiar with these factors of production. This is the primary aspect in economics. In factors of production, land is one aspect, labor second aspect, physical capital, and most important is human capital. Without human capital, the remaining three are useless. Without human capital, the remaining three are useless, and the situation in some African countries is a classic example. Without human capital, you cannot do anything. Whatever the resources you have will totally be useless without human capital. Human capital is very much essential, and human capital means good education, good health and skills. That makes human capital. And today in this topic, we are going to talk about higher education, whether the expansion of IITs, IIMs will make, or you can say will take Indian education to the global standards. The first point is, world over, in several countries, the higher education institutions are quite autonomous and independent. The higher education institutions across the world in developed countries are quite autonomous and independent, and this is because of endowments received from the alumni of the institutions. There are two prime reasons. One is endowments, that means if a person studied in some institution like MIT or Stanford, if he became rich later on, he will give certain percentage as a donation to the institution, that is known as endowment. 20%, 30%, he will donate liberally to the institution, that is donations or endowments by alumni of the institution. That is the main source of funding for foreign institutions. That's why foreign institutions are autonomous and independent, right? Without government support, they reached greater heights. That is basically due to two reasons. One reason, as I have already told you, that is because of endowments from alumni of the institutions. The second most important aspect is industry-academia interaction is inevitable in most of the world-class institutions. Industry-academia interaction, because of which high-class research is being undertaken in world-class universities, and in turn they will get a lot of money from industry. So, these two are absent in Indian institutions. The first one is absent altogether in India. The second aspect, which I have stated now, is absent in almost 99% of the institutions except a few. So, that is why our institutions cannot become world class. Look at the next point. In general, our educational system is not risk taking, and Indians still conceive education as an opportunity to get job. With that mindset, our educational institutions cannot become world class. The next one is, our thought process is neither innovative nor creative. If you look at MIT or Stanford, they are meant for innovation and creativity. If you look at our institutions, or you can say if you look at the human beings in our country, the thought process is neither innovative nor creative, and several Indians became innovative and creative after crossing the boundaries of the country. I am talking about majority of the Indians. They are neither innovative nor creative, and they became innovative and creative in world-class institutions abroad. Right, this is the fourth aspect. Let us look at the fifth aspect. The heads of IITs, IIMs are appointed based on their academic achievement, based on number of publications, based on research, based on teaching. They are being elevated to the higher positions, and there is no guarantee that a person excelling in academics may also excel in administrative skills and managerial skills. That is the lacuna of our higher learning institutions. Right? Next point is centralized decision making. That is another drawback. Most of the decisions are centralized with Ministry of Human Resource Development. And the second point is hierarchical structure. Hierarchy is maintained. Promotions are based on hierarchy. That is the biggest drawback in our country. And bureaucracy, this is another drawback. And all these three put together proved to be a big disaster when we look at selections to various institutions in our country. If you look at the next point, there is no system in our country to establish committees to periodically examine and at the same time evaluate and suggest any modifications in the functioning of the institutions of higher learning. And almost all the institutions are static. Dynamism is missing. Dynamism is very much relevant nowadays because of advent of ICT, because of convergence of several branches. Nowadays, mechanical, electronics put together, new branch, mechatronics. Day in and day out, this dynamics are changing, and because of advent of this ICT, the dynamics in higher education entirely changed. And our educational system is not supporting that. So, there must be a committee to periodically examine, evaluate and suggest any modifications. Then the next one is the centralized regulators, that is UGC, AICTE decide on their own with regard to curriculum and syllabus as well as the mode of delivery. If you look at curriculum and syllabus as well as mode of delivery, UGC, AICTE decide on their own, and this inbuilt rigidity in the system is becoming a stumbling block to become world-class institutions. Then the next point is, please look into this slide, University Grants Commission. This is All India Council for Technical Education, and these centralized structures are becoming stumbling blocks and high rigidity, high bureaucracy, and at the same time hierarchical structure. These are a bane for becoming world-class institutions. Next one is, in the world-class institutions, as I have already told you, syllabus is being revised quite often to suit the present-day needs. And in the ever-changing dynamics in education, because of ICT, because of advent of information and communication technology, convergence of several branches is taking place, and we are not considering this aspect. This is the unfortunate aspect in our higher education system. Then appointments to directors in IITs and IIMs, they are being badly delayed, and as on date also, several IITs, IIMs have no full-time directors. This indicates sorry state of affairs in our country. If you look at the next point, and some of the IIMs as well as IITs are coming up at small places. If you look at especially IIMs coming up at small places like Kashipur, Gaya, and it is not that easy to develop them as world-class institutions because lack of industry and corporate interface, because of lack of industry and corporate interface, it is not that easy for development of world class institutions at small places, because our development pattern is basically in metropolitan cities and big cities. Most of the development, most of the corporate interface, most of the industry interface is taking place in metropolitan cities and big cities. So, at small places, it is very difficult to become world class institutions. And the next important aspect is PhDs must be linked with presentation of papers with international repute. Nowadays, the quality of research papers in our country is abysmally poor, and PhDs must be linked with the presentation of papers with international repute. If you look at the next point, the quality of teaching that needs improvement, and if required, faculty from foreign universities must be taken. And last but not the least is, more than all these things, strong willpower of the center as well as state governments is very much essential to make our institutions world class. And let us hope to see India with the country of world class educational institutions. Right friends, with this let us conclude second capsule. This is on higher education and India. And at present the picture is quite abysmal, and let us hope better things to come in future. Right friends, have a nice day. Thank you.